Hi, my name is Kristina Anderson. I'm the founder of a nonprofit called the Koshka Foundation for Safe Schools, and I'm also a survivor of the Virginia Tech school shooting. In April of 2007, I was a sophomore studying international studies and foreign languages, and I had a classroom inside a building called Norris Hall. At the time, what we didn't know was a student who was on our campus that I had no prior really interaction with had extensively planned and researched a very serious attack. Shortly after I walked into class that morning, he followed shortly after with 3 chains for 3 doors, 2 handguns, and 400 rounds of ammunition. And so he actually locked the doors. He trapped us inside of the building and went to the second floor where I was. I was sitting in the back left corner of my classroom. All of our classroom doors didn't lock. There was only one door per classroom, kind of in or out. And so he didn't start firing in my classroom, but further down the hallway. And as the shots came closer and closer, no one really ever stopped and said, there's a person with a gun. And I didn't really yet have any reason to be concerned. I didn't see what was happening. I didn't really know what was occurring. And my professor went in the hallway, and she quickly came back in, and she said, call 911. And those seconds, I kind of went towards the floor, and I hugged the desk that was around me. And unfortunately, just very, very quickly, within about 5-7 seconds, he burst in. He shot my professor first and went to the other side of the classroom and opened fire. For the next about 11 and a half minutes, he would wound every single person in my classroom but one. And he entered into our classroom several more times. And so I was shot twice in the back. Actually, when I first started to kind of share my story and meet with different groups, I said I was shot twice in the back. The truth is, second time I was shot in my butt, which does hurt, I'll be honest. And as police finally were able to kind of break into the space, he took his own life. So he was found in the front of our classroom. As you can imagine, as most people can imagine, 11 and a half minutes is a very long amount of time when you're holding on, waiting for your life. I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was a prank or a psychology, type of experiment at first. But very quickly, I hope that no one ever finds themselves in this situation. And I also want to be clear that there are hundreds of attacks, plans for school shootings or the types of violence that are stopped, mitigated, averted, and they never make national headlines. But if one finds himself in this position, you will trust your instincts in a very big way. And so I knew that for myself, even though I wasn't looking around, just the sounds, the nonstop sounds of gunfire, which was very, very quick and very, very loud, I could tell that my best instinct was to get down and to stay low. I am extremely grateful for our first responders. Our Virginia Tech Campus Police Department and the local town of Blacksburg, Virginia, broke into the building very quickly, which is when he took his own life. And so they, burst into our classroom. They picked me up. I couldn't speak. I was shot in the back as well. So it just, at that point, started to hurt and to burn. It felt like a very hot, searing pain after a while. And there were 17 of us that were physically wounded that were alive. We all quickly made it out of the building and went off to the main hospitals. So I lost my gallbladder, parts of my large and small intestines, part of my kidney, so I did not return to campus that semester. I essentially wrote my own GPA that year, and I got very, very good grades that semester, but I did go back the following 2 years. And so for me, the recovery process, at first was much more about physical recovery, so relearning how to use my stomach muscles and how to talk and how to walk upright, things like that. I was also shot in my toe, so walking and putting my foot, upright was very painful. But coming back in the classroom, I would be really afraid of loud noises, or I would always sit in the back of a room just so I could have time and distance from the door in case someone burst in again. If anyone came in late into our classroom, I would naturally just tense up and be very anxious because our shooting started late in the day, and so I was waiting for it to kind of start all over again. And so I started seeing a counselor about 8 months after the attack, and it was by far one of the most beneficial things I have ever done. For about 2 years, every single session was just, tell me, the therapist, what happened. And, I learned that we all experience trauma in different parts of our lives, and we owe it to ourselves to have a qualified person just to talk through that and not feel like we have to keep it inside of us. A lot of people with survivors and people like myself, they sometimes expect you to get over it or to forget about it or think that it will impact you. And the reality is you can't always control when triggers or things might pop up for you. For me, it's things like temperature and weather. So bright sunny days, spring kind of reminds me that April, my anniversary month, is coming. It could be the clanging of a door might scare me, or a car backfiring, things that are really natural experiences, but you need a safe place or person to share that. I started working in my nonprofit a few years after the attack, and what really motivated me and excited me was this concept and this research that mass attackers, they don't snap. People don't decide to walk into a church or a school or a library with this, with a plan and a map and all the tools. There's research called the Safe School Initiative that was done now about 20 years ago that showed there is no profile of a mass perpetrator. And so I'm very careful that in the presentations that I do, talking about my experience, I don't highlight the shooter very much. It's much more important for us as a society to think about their behaviors and what could have been done in advance of time to get them help. And so my motivation for my work is to, I think, help inspire and motivate people to care about their own safety, regardless of where they are, whether it's at a college, at a school, at their place of work. It's for them to ask questions about what's being done for their behalf. So actively getting to know their local law enforcement, actively getting to know their campus safety and security, asking questions about trainings and drills and how they can contribute. One field that I'm really passionate about is called threat assessment and threat management. And this became law in Virginia after our shooting. It essentially says that every school must have a team of people that help to assess and manage threatening behavior. So if there's a social media report or students saw something that just felt kind of weird in a classroom, the work of this team is to say, what's really going on with this individual and how can we get them help before they may go kind of further down the planning process and things like that. There were many various of these types of behaviors that our perpetrator exhibited. Unfortunately, at the time, we did not have a policy or plan in place to ever be able to kind of capture that. So really trying to think about how can we prevent, how can we make things better, and effectively, how can we take care of people in a really significant way. And so I'm really fortunate and very happy to be back at Boise State University because this campus has had this process in place for years. And the fact that it's doing so in a thoughtful way. They've had training, they have continuous training, they maintain confidentiality for everyone in the space. This is how I measure how much a campus cares about safety and security. So part of my message is please, whatever sense you have of, this might be nothing but, or I had this weird interaction and I don't think it's dangerous, to please contact your care team or your Department of Public Safety. They have so many other tools that they can utilize to really make sure that it's not a threat and to reach out in appropriate ways, in empathetic ways, and ensure that something like this doesn't happen in your space. I also work a lot with survivors, and so part of my mission is that, we all have to be cognizant that we're traumatized by events all the time and that we should always keep anniversaries in mind of past, school shootings or other mass attacks, and that we have to take care of one another, throughout the entire year. And that to be called a survivor, you did not have to be, shot or stabbed or inside that space, that we're all worthy of that title, and that we all have to lean on each other and support each other. And that is the only way we're going to continue to make our communities safer, kinder places to live and to grow.